Hello, Trombone Internet. This is Chris Van Hoff, assistant to the regional manager of the International Trombone Festival. We at the festival, of course, are huge fans of the pod, and we are really excited to invite you to attend this year's 2024 International Trombone Festival at TCU in Fort Worth, Texas. Dave Begnosh is our host. We have the world premiere of a brand new double concerto for trombone and piano with the Fort Worth Symphony. We have the American Brass Quintet. We have late night jazz featuring a Latin jam session. Like, everything is happening. All the cast will be there. It's the best hang in the world. And we hope to see you there. You can register for the festival still online at www.internationaltrombonefestival.com. And it's happening the last week of May. So go register. We'll see you in Texas.
Welcome to the Trombone Retreat, a podcast of the Third Coast Trombone Retreat. Today on the podcast, we hang out with Angel Subero, professor of trombone at the Boston Conservatory and Berklee College of Music. My name is Sebastian Vera, and I'm joined as always by Schwick Nortz. Merry holidays, Schwick.
What's Papa-lockin'?
Really? You're going to say what's Papa-lockin'?
Yeah, I am.
You're so street. Schwick. Schwick sounds like a secret agent in like an 80s movie, but like a B movie. Or like an investigator.
Yeah.
Wears like leisure suits.
Where's Schwick? Get him in my office.
No one can solve this. We're going to need Schwick.
I haven't heard that name in many years.
And they like cut to a scene of Schwick and he's just like smoking like a pack of cigarettes in like the shadows.
Exactly. Yep. Well, I guess it's time to save the world.
I gave up that life a long time ago. Okay, sorry. That wasn't the plan. Okay.
No, it wasn't.
Well, hey, it was cool talking to you last week. That last episode, that was by far the most positive feedback we've ever gotten. And I hope you survived okay.
I did. I was nervous about it. I still think my mom pays a lot of people to be my friend, and that all the positive compliments come from there. So you can send her the bill if that's true.
I will neither confirm nor deny.
Womp womp.
No, but like, yeah, guys, thank you so much. I mean, a lot of people sent some really heartfelt messages, and that really does mean the world to us. And we thank you for that.
Yes, I'm very thankful and humbled.
Well, Merry Holidays, Nicholas. And this is our Christmas episode. We need some like jingle bells in the background or something.
My valves need to be oiled. Does this work?
Oh. Yeah, it's the exact same.
Yep, no difference whatsoever. As they say in Old Navy commercials, Happy Christmas Kwanzaa.
There you go. We just covered everything.
Mm-hmm.
If you haven't subscribed to the podcast, please subscribe anywhere you find your podcast. Thank you for everyone that has so far. This episode is brought to you by Houghton Horns. Houghton Horns is a family business, and their mission is to spread the joy of music through providing the highest level of products, services, and resources to the brass playing community.
Striving to create a customer-centered experience for everyone, Houghton Horns accommodates players of all levels, from beginning students to amateurs and hobbyists, all the way up to top-flight professionals.
They have great sheet music selections for trombone, including the new method book from Koichiro Yamamoto, and the full catalog of Brad Edwards, as well as trombones and mouthpieces. Check them out at houghtonhorns.com.
All right, enjoy this interview with Angel Subero.
Look who decided to stroll in. Mosey on in.
That's what I do.
Nick, good to see you, brother.
You too, man.
Yeah, dude, thanks for hanging out with us, man.
Dude, thank you for having me. I've been looking forward to this. I'm even a little nervous.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, this is cool, man. You guys are doing a cool thing, and I love it. So I appreciate you guys having me.
Well, we're honored to have you on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Man.
I think the last time you and I hung out in person was in Argentina.
Oh God, those videos! You got to talk about that. I mean, come on. I mean,
a
little bit.
Well, I was going through my phone and just looking at photos and videos of Argentina because it was. So to preface it, there's a festival called Trombonanza that has been around since, gosh, is it 20, 30 years now?
I think 20 years or something like that, I think.
And
it's crazy.
It's crazy. And it's a festival for basically young people from all around South America come. And was it like 500 last time?
Yeah, so well, I think 200-300 maybe, but it's a lot of people. And basically, it's this little town called Santa Fe, and basically, it's like a being Des Moines, you know, like Iowa. Like this is
The Des Moines of Argentina.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, and then all of a sudden, it's like 200 trombone low brass players walking around town. You know, it's like the best week of the year for the whole, you know, the entire town. So
unless you hate the trombone, then it's a really bad week.
Right. So the guy who runs it, Ruben, he's like a mafia dude. You know, he knows the governor, he knows everything. I mean, it's a small town, but I mean, it's a cool festival. So it's intense, but it's a lot of work. And, you know, like in Argentina, everything is late. So it's like dinner is at midnight, you know, 1 in the morning.
And you're not kidding.
And you're eating a gigantic, you know, plate of steak and whatever, which is awesome. And a bunch of beers and
until 3 in the morning when you have heartburn.
I mean, basically, you don't go to bed till like 4 or 5, and 2 weeks of that, I did that. I mean, at the end of 2 weeks, I'm like, you see pictures of me, and I look a little beat up.
I definitely got sick. I mean, it's winter down there during in August, and you know, I was prepared for I knew it'd be a lot of playing. You know, I've been to these festivals and been guest artist, whatever, but I was not prepared for the hang.
Yeah.
And, you know, we'd work all day. You'd have a class at like, you know, 8 a.m., 9 a.m. Yeah. You hang all day. You teach all day. You play all day. And then you finally make it to dinner. Like, you start eating at midnight. And then, like, you're dead tired. It's like 1 a.m. And then everyone just pulls their trombones out. And there's like a jam session till like 2. And everyone's drinking like the best wine. And it was amazing. You were basically like the ambassador to Trombonanza for me. and kind of helped because I was a little lost at the beginning for sure. But
well, I haven't been to the festival, but I sort of know how those things go, and these things they're crazy because these guys have been doing it for a long time. So then it's not that they assume that everybody knows what's going on, but they don't really take especially to the English speaking people. Like, you know, it's really hard. Like, I was feeling for you guys. And, you know, you remember, I was hanging with John Fetchuk the entire time. I mean, we were doing the jazz thing too, you know, but together. But it was one of those things where, you know, I was like, wow, these guys they're just like going through like, blah, 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 and then, like, I speak Spanish and I was lost. Like, I'm not kidding. I was lost. The thing is, like, I'm like, you know me. I'm like, whatever. I mean, let's have a good time. You know, so you know, I mean, it is what it is. But you know, like when you don't understand where you have to be at what time, it's like at some point there was a recital that I was supposed to play. You know, so I was supposed to play some stuff at the beginning, and then I'm like, okay, cool. The stuff that I had to play with him was kind of hard, so I was like, okay, that's fine. All they were playing, you know, it's like good 40-minute break that I have there. I can just sit in a room and chill. No, I had to go and rehearse with the big band. And I had to jump in the car and then rehearse with the big band like a boom, 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 and go through all the charts. And then I was like, okay, no, you have to go back. They're waiting for you. I'm like, what the, you know, so, but
I was blown away though. Like somehow, cause we, you know, Nick and I do this festival with 20 students and it's the most work we do all year. And, you know, they were getting these students from all over South America. Yeah. Hundreds of them. And they made it work. Like they kept everyone together. It blew me away. And I stole a lot of ideas for what we do. But it was really cool just watching you work and watch you interact with all the students. Cause I mean, the students just were drawn to you, it seemed like. And
well, I knew, well, not a lot of them. But for me, it was pretty special. I mean, I would say, and this sounds cheesy and stuff, but
I love cheese.
Cheese is the staple of the diet of the trombone retreat.
That's right, baby. So I love that. So it was really great for me to go there and sort of experience being back in South America, being back in the culture. Like, you know, I remember just kids are talking to me and they're like, no, we were on the bus for like 2 days. We are so happy that you're here. Thank you. I mean, people are like, literally, they travel for 2 or 3 days by bus to get there, man, and some people don't have the money. The cool thing about that festival is that he finds funds so people don't pay, like, I think 80 or 90% of the students, they don't pay for food or places to stay. I mean, they don't stay in a 5-star hotel, but they share rooms, and because they come in groups and it's very organized, then they can do that. So the kids only pay for their way to get there, and they get to start. But you hear these like really powerful stories, and sometimes it was hard for me to like tear up. It's like, whew, I remember that.
And you're a superhero to them, because I mean you grew up just like them, and
then they get to know me, and then they're like, they're like, not anymore. I'm not following him anywhere.
Yeah. Well, another thing I thought about, you said, people come from all over South America, so you're not just dealing with the language barrier between Spanish and English, but Spanish and Portuguese. I imagine that's a faction too.
Yeah.
So you have to have someone in the Brazilian community that speaks Portuguese and English and Spanish, and like,
Yeah, in fact, like, I think originally I wasn't going to go. I wasn't invited, but the person who was supposed to go was a Brazilian guy. And I went for that person. I got called, and it was cool. They called me. They were like, listen, we need somebody who helps out with the classical stuff, but also we need somebody who also helps out with the jazz stuff, the commercial stuff, just because it's a lot of people. So that was great, because I got to hang out with John Fetchuk the entire time, and you, of course, and everybody. I mean, dude, I was a mess.
we had a lot of fun, to put it lightly.
Well, I was thinking about the time that Nick and I met, and you were kind enough to offer your place. And you probably know this, but Renee and I divorced.
Yeah.
And, I was with my ex there, and then we started drinking a bunch of IPAs, right? That I brought you a bunch of
some
IPAs. IPA, New England IPAs.
Where was it from? Was it Treehouse?
No, it was Trillium.
Of course, you would remember what
Trillium.
And I also brought you some Night Shift and some more stuff.
Yeah,
I think I got you some, some Cubans, and then also I brought that bottle of fucking rum.
Yeah,
we're not live, right? We're not live yet.
Oh yeah, we are.
Okay. And then Nick decided to open that damn thing at the end of the night.
George
passed
Curran
out in the couch.
Yeah,
he came over, and he's like, "It's out." Renee went to bed, and then Nick, well, I guess we'll have to try this. And he opens a damn bottle of rum. So we had like half, maybe, or the whole thing. Next day, dude,
well, you had a concert, huge gig at Madison Square Garden the next day.
Oh, God, I was in pain. I was hurting.
Yeah. Was that the Star Wars thing?
No, it was like a huge salsa thing. I show up. Well, I mean, we are like literally out. I mean, we're just sitting in the couch.
I made some eggs at some point, I think. And
and then we just sat and chilled all day. And then Renee and I went to the concert, and I just remember, I get there and I take out my trombone, and I was like, holy shit, man, this is gonna be rough. And then some people, then somebody got sick in one of the bands, so I had to like help them out.
Really?
So I had to play an extra set. So I'm standing up there, and I'm like, oh God, So no, but it was fine, but I was definitely tired. So.
Well, good thing salsa gigs are usually pretty quiet, so it's probably fine with the hangover.
No, well, there's that. It depends on the settings. I mean, those things are. I don't like playing those big events. People get too uptight. I'm there. It's like, come on, guys. This is not.
How uptight are we getting? Because I mean, we're starting from a place of pretty loose vibes. So I mean, are we just getting like normal classical uptight, or is it actually uptight?
Oh no! Well, yeah, right. You have a point. No, Latin uptight, which is probably pretty loose.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm getting at. Yeah,
is that like starting the gig on time? Is being uptight?
No, it's not. It's not starting the gig on time. It never starts on time.
No, we'd never do that. Yeah. So I want to talk about growing up in Venezuela, and I want to try to get to the bottom of something I've always been curious about. Is some of the most talented musicians I've ever been around are from Venezuela, and I'm just curious what experiences you had growing up and what it was like. Because I'd imagine, and I'm sure you experience this all the time, is a lot of people have, especially now, a lot of like connotations that immediately come to their head when they think about Venezuela right now. But culturally, everyone I've ever known is just this amazing culture of talent. So what was it like, and how'd you come to music growing up there?
Well, yeah, it's a pretty big question. And so I started, there's no musicians in my family. I'm from the South, right? I'm from a big town, but it's not, it's very industrial. It's very cool. It's a very cool town, but it's not, it's not a big music city. But I did start it in a band. In fact, I was thinking about this. When I started playing, at that point, my family had moved to the part of the country where my mom and my dad are from. And they picked a middle point, which is in the middle of nowhere. This is like farm town, people in horses and donkeys. I'm not exaggerating. So that's where I started playing. And I remember walking with my mother, and I heard the sound of this band, mostly brass, in some plaza there, and I was drawn into that. So I fell in love, and then my mom took me to the music school, and I took some lessons, and then we moved back to my hometown, which is Ciudad Guayana in the Bolivar state, which is in the south. And there, once again, I was crazy about this music thing. We were walking to buy groceries at the mercado, it's like a shopping thing, And then I heard this band. It was the wind ensemble of my hometown. It was a concert band. And then I just told my man, can we listen? Can we hear this? And I thought it was the most beautiful sound ever. It's this band playing concert music. And as I said, there's not musicians in my family. So it was kind of weird, but I always loved music. My mom tells me that apparently when I was a kid, somebody gave me a little radio so I would get lost in the house and fall asleep listening to music. I don't remember any of that. But anyway, so I started playing in this band. So then later on, I got into classical music, but it took me a while. I was just doing band. It was a concert band. I got involved in salsa and Latin music. In the concert band, it was cool because we used to play a lot of classical music. So I thought in my head, all the stuff that we play, like William Tell, I thought William Tell was in F minor, band key. Ooh. So I'm not kidding. For the first few years of my life, I played because we used to play all that repertoire. I mean, the repertoire that we play with the concert band, and I got into the band very young. I was like 14. Officially I got the job, and we play all kinds of repertoire, like heavy stuff. And then a friend of mine, oboe player, kept talking to me about the symphony orchestra, the youth orchestra in my hometown. Oh, come on, man. I said, dude, 6 months to play a concert, man? Come on. Like that, it's that kind of vibe, right? And not that much. But then I started going, and I truly fell in love with it. And when I started going to the orchestra, I started learning about people, the level, all that stuff, the teachers, all these teachers. So going back to your question about the level, and there's a generation, my generation, it's a bunch of really incredible players. You met some of them in Argentina, but there's a whole generation 10, 20 years before us that were phenomenal. There's in the bass trombone planet, there's this guy, Eduardo Echarri, who's phenomenal teacher. Eduardo Medus, who plays in the Venezuela Symphony. Eduardo plays in the Simón Bolívar. Jose Quito Sepra, who is from my hometown, and he actually gave me some of my first bass trombone lessons ever. I mean, for free. I mean, these people are great. And then on the tenor trombone, Miguel's dad, Miguel Sanchez, dad, Angel Sanchez, big teacher in one part of the country. In fact, I'll go back a little bit. The Venezuela Symphony was humongous back in the 50s and 60s, right? So, and the money in Venezuela, the economy was 1-to-1. So they could get any players. Recordings of the Venezuela Symphony in the 50s and 60s, and you can compare it to Vienna and Berlin. And I'm not exaggerating. This is like real thing. And then Maracaibo, who is a part of the country where there's a lot of oil. They had a huge symphony, so there were a lot of Americans that were there. And at some point, there was Aldemaro Romero, a brilliant pianist, composer, conductor as well. He created the Philharmonic. So the Philharmonic, actually, he would come to the States and do auditions in New York. And the rehearsals were in English. So we were, even from before El Sistema, there was this huge amount of people coming in with a pretty big level. In fact, Doug Yo, my former teacher, he actually told me the very first job that he won was with the Philharmonic. He never took it.
Oh, wow.
He won Baltimore right after.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
But yeah, I didn't know that either. But then there was a French guy, Antoine Duhamel, who moved back to Venezuela, who is we can do a whole podcast about that guy. He's like a crazy legend. But he was a phenomenal French trombonist. In fact, he was the one who helped out Michel Becquet when Michel Becquet moved to
That's
Paris.
what I was going to ask.
Wow.
Yeah.
You studied with him at the Conservatory there.
Yeah, so that was a particular moment in the history. But then in I think it was between 1995 and 1998, Michel Becquet went there. The French embassy in Venezuela decided to bring these people to teach. Don't ask me why, but all of a sudden, there were 10 people who got to work with him, open private lessons. So in the mornings, there were 2 hours of a warm-up. So you warm up with Michel Becquet. Anybody can show up. Basically, you see like 40, 50 people there, sometimes. And he's just playing and you repeat, playing and you repeat. Miguel and I always talk about this because it feels to me that the history and the level and the trombone playing in Venezuela, it was before Michel Becquet, after Michel Becquet. It's very heavily influenced by the French school. Yet, there's another guy there who is in social media. He plays in the Boston Brass, Domingo Pagliuca, who is a monster of a player. He can do anything on the trombone. But he studied in Indiana with Keith Brown. So you had this combination of Michel Becquet coming 3 times a year, twice a year to work with all these people. And then you had Domingo there, who was also a pretty big influence. But there were always great players there. Don't ask me how, but the level is always been, of brass playing especially, is being incredibly special.
So a huge opportunity to soak up a lot of different voices and knowledge growing up there at that time. And so how did you get to America? What provided that opportunity?
So there was a foundation in Venezuela called the Mozarteum Foundation, and it was sponsored by this family that has a lot of money. They own Cisneros. They're a very famous family in all South America. I think at some point they own all DirecTV and in all South America. I mean, we're talking about serious amount of dough. So they had this scholarship that they gave. They own a beautiful house in Aspen. In fact, it was
where the beer flows like wine.
Oh, good times. So it was for all instruments. So I auditioned I think 4 or 5 years, and then I got it 1 year. Everything is paid for.
And only one person gets it?
Only one person.
A lot of people, I imagine, were auditioning for that.
Yeah, a lot of people. I mean, and then I got it that year. But I got to study with John Rojak. And at the time, I was working like crazy. I moved to Caracas because I had a pretty nice gig. It wasn't any of the big orchestras, but it was an orchestra that did a lot of repertoire. Conductor is fantastic, Rodolfo Sanglimbeni. He organized the whole orchestra like an American orchestra. So we had a 52-week thing. Repertoire, we knew what we were playing in the summer. He will give us all the repertoire. So it was a full time. We had opera, we had pops, we had everything. It was amazing. Studio work as well, built up into it. And then I was freelancing on top of that and doing the jazz thing and the salsa thing. So, but I went to Aspen and I was like, wow, people, you know John, John Rojak, he's a pretty chill dude.
Oh, yeah.
And I just assumed that everybody was chill here. I was, that's how life is here. It's Aspen all year long. I want that. So, because my life in Venezuela was crazy. I'm running around from one gig to the other and, playing this and playing that. And, it just, it's a pretty hectic life there. It's like, Caracas is like a mini New York. But, add all the stress of being in South America and and dangerous, very dangerous place. But I did end up, it's funny because we have the first place I moved to in the States was Pittsburgh.
Was it really?
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I actually went to Carnegie Mellon for
Right on.
for a few months. Yeah, I started with BB.
Really?
And,
Okay.
Wow.
yeah.
I'd love to hear about that.
And then he got sick, end of the third month. I spoke to Randy Haas about this a little bit. He was such a gentle soul. And he was always happy. He was always very uplifting. And yes, he was one of those guys that, like when we were young, I think I was 19 or 20. And it was great for me because I was one of those guys that always was beating myself up, right? Because, I need to be better. I need to be better. And he would sit there and he was like, yes, you have to be better. But then it's like, you also have to balance out the good things. And he would sing, always singing, He always talked about Remington, love Bordonis. I mean,
Those are Nick's favorite.
oh God, let's not get into that.
Yeah, good call.
Yeah. So, but it was great. And then he passed away. That was very sad. I visited him every day. And then he got sick. And then I visited him all the time. And then I even saw him the day he died. It was very sad. I'd never seen, I think he's the only person that I've seen before. It was very, it was amazing.
Real.
Yeah.
It's weird, man. It's like, he died like maybe 3 or 4 hours after. But I saw him at his house and can't remember the name of the lady. And I rang the bell and then she said, he's a little too tired right now. And then she came out and she said, no, he wants to see you. And, I held his hand and everything. It was touching. I never experienced anything like that in my life. But then I got to study with Maury, and I started with Becky a little bit, and then I started with Pete a little bit. Mostly with Maury. I actually got to hang out with him.
So in a way, you kind of continued that French influence in your playing a little bit with the French Canadian influence.
It's always it's always been there. Growing up, I think the first trombone quartet I heard was the Paris Trombone Quartet. So there was no bass trombone playing there, right? So I love that crisp, clear sound, everything, right? And then, and as I said, in Venezuela, it's a pretty high level, and everybody is like concerts as an event, and everybody, it's a really good camaraderie and a really good competition in between. And the cool thing about Venezuela, before we move on, we used to sit in the theater, in the basement, and people just get together there and you practice. And because we played everything the same, because we're playing the same exercises, because this is after Berklee got there. So you're playing the same type of exercises. You're playing the same type of articulation. You're sort of looking for the same thing. You have 10 people practicing there together. So that was hard for me when I moved to Boston. Practicing by myself, that was weird.
Actually, at Juilliard, that was...
Nick went to Juilliard. I don't know if you know.
Yes, he did.
Sebastian, I don't know how to bring this up now because you come in on hot.
Well, it's once an episode. That's how you bring it up.
Oh my God. So anyhow, when I was at that school in New York, for people who have been there, there's a lack of practice rooms, surprisingly. I mean, any music student's not going to be surprised by that. But someone who's not maybe listening, practice rooms at conservatories are really difficult to get, especially in the middle of the day. And
yes.
The third floor there is all dance studios, really, really big. So those are like precious commodities. And it was common to share those rooms with 2 or 3 other people. You would just all kind of grab a corner and maybe play together, maybe not. But I can understand what you're saying, Angel, because you kind of get used to that noise around, even if it's together or not. It gets lonely practicing on your own. And it's actually a good exercise, I think, like to be able to focus in on your thing while everyone else is playing different things. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's fascinating. And also the cool thing about that is I remember like some of the exercises that I use on my own playing and I teach to my students, like especially slide technique and stuff. Miguel taught me that. So we used to get together and practice. Say, man, check this out. My dad told me this. Or I learned this exercise or learned this exercise. And then all the time, like we're exchanging information, exchanging this, or like I'm talking to them about improvisation. I always been into improvisation. And you asked me about moving to the States. It's funny because, yes, I came here to study classical music and most of my training has been classical and blah, blah, blah. But the reason why I moved to the States is I fell in love with jazz very early on. One of my teachers, my first teachers, he played all these recordings for me, like Urbi Green, the Persuasive Trombone. That's the first recording I ever heard. It's still my favorite. And he played it for me, and I just like, wow. But I was drawn to, of course, the trombone playing was amazing. But if you hear that big band, that's sick. That's some really phenomenal ensemble playing. And I fell in love with jazz, and I was always drawn to that. And I really wanted to play with really awesome jazz players. That was one of the things that I really wanted to do. Yes, I wanted to be a better trombone player and playing orchestra and all that good stuff, right? But also, that was one thing that I really wanted to do. I really wanted to be able to play with really great big band musicians. And that was one of the big reasons why I sort of moved.
And that's something that you do in your career is you're kind of this jack of all trades. I mean, you're equally proficient in Latin, in classical music, in jazz, and in new music. And that it's hard to occupy all those spaces so well. So it's really impressive. And you're in a major city and you get to do all these things. Is that just kind of always been your mindset? Is you just want to be able to do everything, or were you just following your curiosities?
A little bit of all, but I remember there was a guy in Venezuela that I worked with, phenomenal drummer, really great musician. And he said something that really stuck with me. He was like, he said, like when I was starting to work, he said, like I looked where the holes were, right? And he said, I'm going to be all that. I'm going to be what a really good drummer does, but I'm also going to be that guy that plays these. I'm going to play this really well. I'm going to play this really well, and this really well, and this really well. Now, that stuck with me. When you grow up in countries like in South America, especially during the time when I grew up in Venezuela, the economy was bad, starting to get really bad. Now it's a disaster, and let's not talk about that because it's depressing. But you have to do a little bit of everything there. I would say 98% of people have to play a little bit of everything at some point. A little bit of salsa, a little bit of classical, a little bit of this. There was a point in the school, when I was in school, that I was like, maybe I should just play commercial music, just because it was really hard to sustain and maintain that sound, that classical thing. I remember like I practiced, and then Tuesday, Wednesday, the sound is really nice. And then Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I'm playing salsa gigs, right? And sometimes Sundays, everything goes to, it was hard, but I enjoy it all. I think we all think about that. We all have that dream, right? Like especially at some point, I want to be in the New York Philharmonic, or I want to be in the Boston Symphony, or I want to be, I don't know, in Chicago. It'd be so amazing. But yet, I couldn't just do one. The joy that I get from playing in a big band, it's amazing. And then when I play with a really good salsa band, it's incredible. And then when I play with a really good orchestra, it's awesome.
So is your jazz education more based on these experiences and
there's no jazz education. There's transcriptions and work on my own. I'm playing with people that kick my ass all the time. Sorry, I mean I don't know if I'm supposed to say this.
No.
But
I want to unpack that a little bit. So is that like a general thought you have? Is that jazz let's say you're getting a degree in jazz performance? Do you think that it's worthwhile degree, or do you think the education really happens in an informal way, like in jazz clubs, going and hearing people playing with people?
I think, I teach in a school that, it sounds, I'm very excited to be on the faculty at Berklee because I get to work with people that are truly phenomenal, but not only because they play. Some of them, they're not even interested in playing. They just want to get that year or two of instrument because they have to, because they want to do music production. They want to do something else. So that school in particular, yes, it's very expensive, which is a whole other topic that we can talk about, and it's complicated because I have my own thoughts on that, which most people will not agree. I might get into it, but
I'm gonna push you into
it.
Sure, I want to hear it. So.
Yeah, because the thing is, these people, I don't know, man. Like for me, I think I'm the most. I don't do well with rules. I don't do well with directions. I don't do well with a lot of stuff. Like I'm one of those people that I don't know why, but it's really hard for me. I mean, I can adapt. I can sit there in the classroom and learn. It's not the system. It doesn't fit me, right?
I'm the same, man.
Even
Totally the same.
Yeah, even though the system doesn't fit me, and I don't think it works for everyone, I think it's very important for people to follow the rules of structure and education. And I think being in a school gives you something that the street doesn't give you. The same the other way around. You do a lot of street. There's a lot of stuff, like I got into this teaching thing, and then all of a sudden I'm teaching across the room from Marshall Gilks. I mean, you hear that guy 2 days a week doing crazy stuff for 10 hours a day. Like I learned so much by just teaching across the room from him, and also from the students too. You learn a lot from the students. I mean, we all know this. I mean, this is every person, every professional, every people that teaches. I learned so much from my students. Yes, that's true. We all know that. I mean, we don't need to make that.
And it's not just the students. It's the act of teaching them when they say, "How do you do this?" And you have to sit back and think. I mean, yes, it is the students themselves, but also like having to describe something makes you actually think about what you're doing and being like, okay, how do I do that? How do I put this into words?
One of the things that I keep telling my last year, my ex-wife and I separated. So that was very hard. That was a very hard decision to make from both of us. Then a month later, my father died. My father was only 60 years old. So anyway, it feels a lot longer because we're this COVID thing, right?
I can relate.
Last year feels like, yeah. So, but that was, it's funny because I keep talking to people that I'm teaching here in this space, and I keep hearing myself talking to my students in such a different way that I did it before. Because I mean, some kids come in and they're just beating themselves up. And then you try, wait a minute, what are you doing? No, don't do that. You can't do that. It's not that bad. Like, I had this kid that stopping every other note. I was like, why are you stopping? Well, that sounded horrible. No. You don't, just go on. Trust me. Like, even if you don't trust yourself, just go with me on this. And it's funny because, I never understood that whole mentorship or how important I was aware of it. But a lot of teachers, one of the things that that really, as I get older, I'm 41, and as I get older, man, I get so worked up sometimes because teachers don't know how powerful whatever they can say is and how much of an impact that can make on somebody.
And the littlest things too, sometimes,
I think 10 years ago, I wasn't as careful as I am with what I say or how I address certain things. Maybe because age or life events or whatever, I'm very aware, and I try to be very careful with how I say things because we never know what somebody's going through. We never know what kind of issues this person is having on a personal level or even just playing. I mean, we all know, like, come on. I mean, we all gone through times in our life when things are not working out and you don't know what to do, and then it's not that you don't want to, it's not that you don't want to do a good job. It's just that sometimes you hit a wall.
Yeah.
And it takes a while, So I think I'm very lucky. I've always been very lucky because I got opportunities very early on. Yes, I was working hard. Yes, I was playing. Yes, I was playing fine. I think, yes, that's a huge part of it. Being ready and, being there and being ready. But also timing is very important. I think when I started playing, I was in school here. I was studying with Doug Yale at the time. I actually moved to Boston because I met a guy in Aspen, Larry Isaacson. Mm-hmm. Phenomenal tenor trombone player. He quit. He got dystonia. But he still teaches at the Boston Conservatory. He was the head of the brass department there. He hired me there, and now the head of the brass.
You're the head of the brass.
Yeah, so it's cool. It's a great vibe. He and I are good friends. But I came to study with him, and it was phenomenal because it was funny. Somebody said something about, I think it was Randy Campora the other day, that he never went to school in Chicago. He never studied with anyone in Chicago, but he feels like he has that lineage, right? So Larry studied with Christoph Hooley and Jacobs. So I studied with Larry. So everything that I was taught, everything was about song wind. And then I met Doug Yo, and then I transferred to New England Conservatory. We all know Doug. Mr. Kleinhammer is a huge influence for him, and I just learned so much from that, from Kleinhammer, the discipline and the discipline that Doug Yo has. My teachers were the total opposite of myself. Mm-hmm. You know, I always practice.
Sometimes that's the best thing, right?
Well, that's why I did it. I was like, this is what I need, and I moved here. And it was great. And Larry and I are very close. I'm still close with Doug. Like, I talk to him every now and then. In fact, like, we exchanged emails this week. He was huge. And I got, speaking of timing, the guy, Mark Cantrell, who was the top player here in town, he quit playing at the time. Or he was doing so. He's president and CEO of the Florida Orchestra now. He's a pretty talented guy. But at the time, and now, I mean, he got into arts administration. He was a pilot. When he quit, that I got the break, he became a pilot. He was...
that made me nervous if my pilot came on the overhead and I realized he was a bass trombonist. That made me nervous.
Me too. No, but he's a pretty phenomenal guy. And then he became involved with the Boston Philharmonic. They had an audition last summer, and I won it. For somebody, I was pretty proud of myself just because I haven't taken auditions, or I haven't been successful in an audition in a long time, you know, or ever. And I did. So it was cool.
We need the air horn sound. So how's this whole experience been for you? You kind of stand out in I think both of our minds as one of the first people when all this stuff happened. And you strike me as an opportunistic person in general. And that's probably why, in addition to your immense talent, why your career has been so successful. I'm curious if a lot of it's come from, you know, growing up in Venezuela and talking about working so hard all the time. But when the pandemic started, you were one of the first people, you know, we know now that every single trombonist is posting things online every single day. But you were one of the first guys to be like, hey, every morning, streaming live from my kitchen, we're going to do warm-ups. And it was awesome. And like, you just consistently did it, and it was so useful and so like uplifting for everybody, and you're constantly posting things.
I'll tell you what, man, this is the reason why I did it. I mean, we're all pros. I mean, we have to practice. If you don't practice, Nick, I mean, when you go back, if you don't sound good in the next job that you play, you won't get hired back, right? So we all have this discipline of, we have to practice. This is my job. I think my friend Ben Griffin put it in the best way possible. It's like inspiration, motivation. That's for amateurs. It's like, this is my job. I have to practice every day. If I don't practice, I don't sound good. If I don't sound good, I don't get hired, you know? And I thought it was beautiful that he said that. Now, for me, one of the things that I was having issues with was my students were pretty bummed about the fact that they're not playing with their friends. They're not doing this. But I'm talking about the jazz players, right? So I'm trying to encourage them, right? Guys, come on. Post stuff out there. Do it. And blah, blah. And then I was like, you know what? If I say it, if I'm making them do it, I'm going to do it myself.
You got to do it. Yeah.
Right? And it was incredibly helpful for me because I will schedule all these practice sessions, right? So I'm practicing in the morning. I'm doing my warm up. And it's hard. I'm telling you, it's not easy to put yourself out there because, you know, people are judging. But you know what? I've learned through the years, I don't care. No one of these people who are judging me are paying my bills or are coming to my thing.
Here.
Or even or in my best moments when I get that call from the Boston Symphony that I get to sit and sub for Jim Markey, who is one of the people that we all admire. I mean, you know, dude is one of the best trombone players in the planet, if not the best. I mean, you know, to me, that's why I sit here every day and I do it. For those, you live for those moments, or when I get to play with a really great salsa band, or when I get to play with a really great ensemble, or a really great jazz combo, or anything. I mean, but anyway, I noticed that you hit that record button and something happens here. All of a sudden, you start either freaking out, overthinking everything, or like weird things happen. And it was good for me. So I started learning a lot from it. Not just by putting myself out there and warming. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go through this thing. It didn't go the way I wanted it, but I did it. Then in the afternoons, I will do a session on a particular solo, a particular piece that I wanted to learn. And then at night, everybody's like, oh, he's going crazy. He's doing this and doing that. No, the night thing was like, I make a meal that takes about an hour. That's a hardcore hour of salsa. So I prepare the meal, put everything, I do the prep, I throw everything on the oven or whatever, and I start jamming to salsa tunes for an hour. That's a set. That's a salsa set. So that's how I kept my salsa chops.
I kind of got a kick this summer. You go in phases, and I just was obsessed with listening to salsa music. And I think you could make the argument that some of the best trombone writing ever is in salsa music.
Some good stuff.
Angel, to a young trombonist that may not have grown up with or just doesn't know much about the genre, who are a few artists, bands that you could be a good jumping off point to kind of discover these things?
Well, I think Mark Anthony, there's a guy, Ozzy Melendez, phenomenal section player. I mean, it's a particular style, it's a more of a romantic, more commercial stuff, but the brass playing is pretty great. I would say if you're gonna get into things like that, one of the guys that I've been checking out, and I'm so impressed by this guy because he's amazing. Alain Perez. He's a Cuban guy, phenomenal bass player, like virtuoso bass player, like chops, and but also plays piano, percussion, anything. This guy is a force. For trombone specific, there's a band from Venezuela that is very famous with just trombones. Dimensión Latina is Latin Dimension, Dimensión Latina. And this, at some point, they had 6 trombones playing 2 voices. So it's a powerful sound, man. Yeah, and they all play large bore, either King 4Bs or Bach 42. So it's a huge sound. It's huge. It's massive. Now, Dimensión Latina is one of them. Obviously, Willie Colon, and Eddie Palmieri. La Perfecta from the 70s. It's like, you hear Barry Rogers and this guy, Brazilian guy that nobody talks about him, but he was the guy who played in every session with Barry Rogers, all the salsa session, Jose Rodriguez. It's amazing. It's
some of these players too are like literally maybe the most famous trombonists in the world. If you just go by, their, like my friend Frank Cohen plays with Willie Colon all the time, and like. Yeah, and they'll like you show up somewhere in South America in Colombia, and there's like 200,000 people waiting to hear. It's incredible. So you talked about going back and forth between playing all these different styles, and it could be tricky on your chops. Like, how did you overcome that? And in general, I want you to talk about
the mouthpieces.
Literally, you have one of my. I joked before the podcast that he's going to have to list his top.
How do we limit it down to 5? I mean, that's just woof.
So it's bass trombonist talking about equipment. But like honestly, Angel, you have one of my favorite tones of any trombonist.
Tone zone, bass bone tone zone.
And it's just, everyone, if you haven't heard Angel play, I was actually listening to your concerto with the Boston Modern Orchestra Project, the Gandolfi Concerto. It's called From the Institutes of Groove, which I highly recommend everyone listen to. Fantastic playing. And you literally had John Williams listen to it and send you this letter and said, and I would just put this on every business card I owned, but he said, I found your recording of the Michael Gandolfi bass trombone concerto to be among the greatest examples of individuality and artistry applied to this fabulous instrument. That's not saying much. It's bass trombone.
I know, right?
Many people
that
I can identify or remember. Golly, how'd you feel when you saw that?
I freaked out. The way, so it went down this way. I was playing with the Boston Modern Orchestra, and with this orchestra, it's all modern music. It's all new stuff. And they record a lot. These people have their own label. So you play a week, bunch of new stuff, and then you record that weekend. So they're always constantly putting stuff out. So we recorded, I remember, a saxophone concerto. Michael Gandolfi needed one more piece to complete that recording. So he called me out one day. He said, he knew me from Tanglewood and playing with this orchestra. He said, hey, I need one more piece to complete this album. I wrote a piece for the principal bassoon player of the Boston Symphony. I wrote a piece for saxophone, and I was like, and I'm thinking is I remember it was a snowstorm out, and I'm walking. I like to go for walks when there's snowstorm. There's nobody around. I love the sound, and I'm thinking like, why is he calling me? He's like, no, I'm going to write a piece for you. I was like, wait, what? So he wrote the piece, and it was funny. I didn't get the whole thing till like 2 days before the
Wow.
premiere.
No way.
Yeah. It was like that. I'm getting like,
Well, you nailed it.
I'm getting 8 bars and stuff. So anyway, we do a recording. Took a while for them to do it and get it out. And then I'm playing at the hall, and John was like, listen, I heard you recording. I was like, oh yeah. I'll talk to you. And all the million fans, right? Lines of people there. And for months, I'm freaking out. So at the time I was playing with the Triton brass, I get a call, and with Triton, we used to take a week and rehearse literally 8 hours a day and put these crazy programs together. So we're rehearsing for the quintet, and because all the repertoire that we prepare for the whole season, we will prepare in 1 week, 8 hours a day. And now, when you do that as a group, that group in particular, Triton, phenomenal. Phil Hyman is playing. I don't know if you know Phil. Phil is a great player, lives in town. He replaced me. But in that group, it's awesome because most people either arrange or they compose. But the thing about that group is like everybody has an equal say, which means that the rehearsals sometimes can take a longer time just to decide or come on to agreement to certain articulations. There's a lot of discussion that happen, but when things happen, then it's a product that is everybody's product. It's not just one person that dictated X or Y. We're rehearsing that week, and we had rehearsals and a recital on Sunday, and it was pretty stressful. And I get a call from the manager of the BSO. I was like, Bruce Creator at the time. He said, hey, Jim mother is not doing well. He has to go and be with his mom. Can you come out and play? It's a John Williams thing. I said, I can't do it. I'm sorry, I can't bell. I have a quintet concert. We have rehearsal set up. I can't do it. It's like, well, will it make a difference if you tell them that John actually requested you and he wants to see you because he wants to see you? And I was like, wait, okay. So I messaged the guys. I was like, hey guys, I gotta make this happen. So we moved the rehearsals around. So I'm driving.
Sorry guys. Yeah. John needs me.
Right? I just heard from Johnny. He's looking for me.
Yeah. So the funny thing is that, but this was pretty special. I drive out there. So I play the first part of the rehearsal. And as I'm coming out, John's assistant, this guy named Jamie, said like, hey, John wants to talk to you. So wait a minute, he's changing his shirt, and just wait for him here. And he really wants to talk to you. He's just been bragging about your recording. Wow. And I'm like, right? So I start shaking, and then I walk in, and he was so sweet. He was so nice. And then all I could do was say, oh, thank you. And I'm doing this the geisha thing. I was like, why am I doing this geisha move? Like, I'm not even, I couldn't be farther from being, from Asia or anything. I'm just like, oh, and then, of course, I walked out of there and I'm shaking and I'm crying. And I remember I called a couple people that they will know how important this is and how big of a deal this is. And then, that was it. I was freaking out the rest of the day, but that was pretty special. He was so cool, and he's always been very, very kind to me. Now, funny story: the very first time I played with the BSO or the Pops, it was a John Williams thing. He conducts, right? He conducts. I was super young. I don't remember how old I was. Maybe 22, 23. So I'm playing. And I'm freaking out. This is the first time I play with John Williams. And I'm like, oh my God. I'm freaking. And then he stops. We top to bottom. He doesn't like to rehearse. It's a beautiful thing because he truly is one of these people that he trusts every member of the orchestra so much. And he treats everybody with such respect that all you want to do is play the best for him. I mean, he's such a nice human being, and he looks at you. He doesn't freak out, even if things maybe don't go well in the orchestra. He just stays out of the way till the orchestra finds the groove, and then boom. I mean, he's incredibly kind. But I remember we are done with the rehearsal. Comes over to me. He's like, "Hey, I just wanted to say, be careful with this part. You have like a fifth or something, and lick." And he said it was a little out. And of course, my first instinct, I'm freaking out because I'm like, "Oh God, I ruined it. I'm never gonna play here again." You know, the feeling that we all have as freelancers. Mm-hmm. And then John Williams is gonna hate me. And then I packed my horn as I'm walking on the street. I'm like, "Man, this is awesome. John Williams told me that I was out of tune. That's really cool." I was like, "Yes, I made it." No, not like that, but then I freaked out. I sat.
That's one way to get noticed.
Well, exactly, right? So I came back home, and I remember just sitting here with the drone, just making sure that fifth was in tune for like 3-4 hours. We all done that. No, but that was, and then I got that letter, and that was super cool. That was very kind of him. He's always been great,
So I'm sorry. Yeah, I gave you like 4 questions at once, but I did want you to just expand a little bit on, I don't know, just how you've developed your sound. Unless I'm imagining it's a product of everything you've heard and all your teachers, but it's just such a natural, consistent, beautiful tone. And the second part of that question is, how do you adjust it going back and forth between all these different mediums and genres of music?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. It took me years, though, years to, as I said, I would go to a salsa gig and then basically feel like I'm destroying all my bass trombone playing, or vice versa, right? So then I remember when I first started taking lessons with Doug, I talked to him about consistency, and because that was one of the things that I felt that was a lack in my playing. So he was like, "Well, your embouchure has 2 memories right now," and freaks out. It was funny because Doug never talked about breathing, maybe at least with me, or embouchure or anything. And I remember, like, my embouchure is pretty good right now. I always had good chops, but my embouchure has always been a disaster. I feel like, especially those days, 20 years ago, up to 5 years ago. But he talked about that, like, you have two mouthpieces and you're going back and forth and your chops don't know where home is. I just said, okay, I have to pick home. What is home? Home is going to be the bass trombone because that's where I'm doing most of my work and that's what I'm studying and blah, blah, blah. So I literally went for a time that it was crazy. I would get home at 2 a.m. sometimes from gigs or 3, and I had my bass trombone set up there. I would leave it set up on a stand, and I will, when you're coming back from a loud gig, salsa gig, your ears are ringing. You had like 1 or 7. Like, so you're not really quite ready to go to bed right when you get home. So I would tune on the TV with a practice music and play long tones. So basically, my thing, I always start my day on bass trombone and I end my day on bass trombone. Or I try to. Unless I have a salsa gig, then whatever. That's a different scene. But that's sort of my thing. And I don't know. It's a very long question. I think listening, I tell my students, I tell everyone, not just my students, but everyone, I think listening is humongous. I call active listening and passive, right? Passive listening is when you're listening to something and not really paying attention. Active listening is when I'm listening and I'm really almost to the point that I can take notes of what everybody's doing. Like I can actually get so intense that I almost can tell which slide position, which valve combination they're using, what they're doing. I remember the first bass trombone CD that I got to Venezuela, I think, was Blair Bollinger. He's playing Spain, and I remember listening to that over and over and over and over. It's like, how can he do that? How can he, that kind of thing. So I think it's like you got to train your ear, you got to train your brain, right? So when visualization is huge. So when you have a very clear idea what you want to sound like, then it's a lot easier to find it. If you don't know what you want to sound like, it's kind of hard, because you're always waiting for somebody to tell you what to play or how to play or what to do, right? Or what sound to go for. And that's one of the things that I encourage my kids to. It's like, I don't really care who you listen to. You need to find 5 or 10 top players. That can be, one of the things that I told people, and I think I texted you a couple times, Nick. I have my students listen to your recording. I send it, some of the stuff that you did with the Met and some of that stuff, or some of the solo stuff. I just tell them, I was like, okay, this guy is doing it the way it's supposed to be done. Boom. This is what you need to listen to. No, seriously, I text.
I know. I appreciate it. I really do.
Yeah, and I really mean it. I don't.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Because and I do the same thing with other people. I mean, I'm lucky in that way that I have so many friends who are, first of all, great people, and they truly inspire me. I mean, and sometimes I'm a little too, I feel like a little embarrassed because I'm a little too expressive, but I feel...
You should never be, you should never feel bad about that. That's a good quality.
I truly feel that. I truly mean it. I'm like, you guys are doing great stuff, great work, not just playing, but also teaching, and this the trombone retreat, and also like the podcast now. And I mean, it's awesome. It's like, it's so great to see my friends. That I get excited. I get inspired by that. And it's cool. I was talking to, like my latest thing is, how George posted about his students sending him recordings with orchestra in the background. Right. Posted something on social media. Oh yeah, my students posted this with they're learning so much. And I heard Brahms and Wagner and stuff. And I wrote back. I said, like, what about Mel Torme? Any Christmas music, holiday music for you? Nothing? I mean, come on. What are these kids thinking? I said, no worries. I got you back. So I've been recording a Christmas tune every day, and I tag him for like 3 hours.
That's what that came
I love it.
That's what that's from. He engaged in the first one. You know how serious he is. And then, but he's laughing. He was texting me. He's like, I love it. Keep it coming.
If I remember correctly, Angel, you love Christmas.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I've seen you online before wearing very nice festive sweaters and things like that.
I have the ugliest Christmas sweater ever. I almost wore it today.
Oh,
you should have.
Too bad. We'll have to. Can you send us a picture of it and we'll post it on social media? We want to see you donning your finest apparel.
Oh my God! This sweater is this green thing, and it's this gigantic face, Santa face. It's just awful. It's just one of the ugliest things that you can ever see. But it's my favorite sweater. Like, I could wear that thing all year. No, but seriously speaking, it's a particular time of the year. It's huge in Venezuela, right? In South America, I think December 24th, Christmas and New Year's is like Thanksgiving here. So it's hard, because it makes me miss my family a lot. Mm-hmm. But, not this year, obviously, but, I get to play a lot of great music. I love, like all these guys are always like, man, you're always so excited. I love playing. I get to play most Decembers. I'm playing Boston Pops. I do about, Jim plays a lot, but I end up doing a good amount between. So, there are 2 Boston Pops. It's the one that stays at the hall, and then the Esplanade Orchestra. So the Esplanade Orchestra, we do all the stuff that goes on the road, and July 4th, stuff like that. So it's all freelancers. We do a lot of stuff. We go on the road a lot in December. So we do, I end up doing 20, 25 concerts maybe in December. Plus all the salsa gigs. Like I'm always playing.
And Christmas shows are always fun. Like, I mean, you'll know the rep. You've probably been doing it for years, so you're not like worried about anything. You just can have a good time.
It's cool. Everybody has a good time, and I love seeing the families. It's that instant reaction that you get right from the audience. People are happy, and I have to tell you, I mentioned some of my people, my teachers, Doug Yo and Larry Axelson and John Rojak, but sitting next to Mike Roylands for the past almost 20 years. You talked about concept. Speaking of concept, like I think just sitting next to Mike, even though it's not as often as it used to be, or because Jim is there all the time, and it's Jim never misses. Jim loves to play, and it's awesome to see such a high caliber player being so excited about playing all the time. I love that about Jim Markey. I have so much respect for him because he's such an inspiring guy in many, many ways. Not just that he can play, not just that he can teach. I mean, there's a lot of things about Jim that we all love, right? But one of the things that I'm most impressed about, I feel like we're all lucky to be musicians and to do what we do. Even though it's not the easiest profession ever, but I particularly, I feel blessed. I'm not, religious in any kind of direction, but I do feel very blessed because I grew up in my town, my hometown, or my particular neighborhood. It's a rough neighborhood, man. And music gave me an opportunity to be at a place that I never thought I would be, have people in my life that I never thought I would meet, and have a quality of life that is just wonderful. And it's just this window of things that I just don't understand. It's hard for me to not get frustrated sometimes when I hear people complaining about music, even though I know it's a hard profession. It's not the easiest. It's not a hard road, but I'll tell you, I've been, as I said, I sit next to one of the best tuba players in the planet, like often, and I'm really good friends with him. This is Mike Roylance, Yes, I don't play in the Boston Symphony, but I sit next to those guys all the time because I've been subbing with them for almost 20 years, But I also get to play salsa. I get to play with the best jazz players. I get to play with all these really incredible musicians on the regular basis. And because I do all these different things that I do, that has opened a window for me to have the teaching I have. Like, as I said, I don't have any kind of formal jazz training, but I do play and I do improvise and I play different styles. And I think the combination of things that I do, it's what led me to have that gig, especially the Berklee one. I just think it's so special to do something, play with people, connect. Like, this pandemic thing has been horrible for everyone. But in many ways, it's been great to connect with so many people. And even with the students, I mean, Zoom is not the easiest thing to do. Teaching online is not the easiest thing to do. But I'll tell you what, like I've gotten closer to my students and have developed my relationship with my students is a lot stronger because there's something about it, even though it's not ideal. I'm not saying that it's the best or it's the way to go, but so I've been incredibly lucky throughout my life and my career because I think to the music and what I do has opened up this window to meet so many wonderful people. I think you said it perfectly, Nick, in your podcast. I heard the podcast. That was wonderful.
Thank you.
And you said it. Your career is based on relationships, and I think that's it. I tell you can be the best player ever, but if nobody wants to be around you, then it's like, what's the point?
Oh, and I was going to say this. I mean, I just want to bring up this kind of last point for me. One thing I find interesting about your career is it's so varied and rich, lots of rich experiences, talking about playing with the Boston Symphony, Boston Pops, Boston Esplanade, playing with the Boston Modern Orchestra, all the jazz you do, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now, Boston itself is, I imagine, a relatively small scene because it's a relatively small city. So, to be able to do what you're doing is hard enough in any city. But I think doing it in a city like Boston, I think it kind of speaks to not only your quality of playing, but again, almost more importantly, just your quality of human.
Thank you.
I mean, because, it's hard enough to do that in a city where there's an abundance of these things. But in Boston, there's not an abundance of salsa gigs and an abundance of jazz clubs and stuff like that. there's no easy way to do any of this. Let's be clear about that in any city. But to be able to do that in a place like Boston, I think it really speaks to you as a person and you as a player. So I think it's very impressive.
Well, thank you, man. I appreciate that. You know, I love music. I truly love music. I truly love playing the trombone. I feel bad for my neighbors sometimes because, I mean, they're cool. They're fine with me playing. But sometimes they spend all day playing, like literally all day. I feel bad. I mean, I wish I had so much work that I could hook up all my friends and my students, you know? But I do very few amount of gigs. I mean, they're cool gigs, but you know, I do my salsa gigs, which most of them, I love playing salsa. And I love playing a particular type of salsa. So I started this band with this friend of mine who's a phenomenal singer because we wanted to play a particular repertoire. Now he's doing his own thing, but I keep the band. But I look for my own gigs. I'm like, you know, I have enough people who like me and believe in me, and they just hook me up with gigs, you know. Same with the jazz thing. I play with bands that I really, you know, the people that I believe in. I support their projects, and they, you know, those bands are cool. And the cool thing is like two of those big bands, I mean, the writing is for me.
That's awesome.
I mean, I've been in the band from the beginning, so they're writing extremely hard and challenging and stuff, but also a lot of fun. And I get to play with great musicians. I mean, that's the thing. Like, and you know, I mean, you guys know me. Like, I mean, I love to hang.
Yeah.
I mean, that's my thing. So who doesn't love a good hang, man? You know, like it's like it's.
I'm looking forward to another one in person.
Oh God, yeah, man, I can't wait. But you know, it's a beautiful thing, and I think, you know, for me, there's nothing better than making joyful noises with your trombone. That can be in December. I mean, I love Christmas; it's my favorite time of the year. But I mean, that can be all year long, you know. And to me, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's a salsa thing. It doesn't matter. I think there's something incredibly special. Like if you meet the guys that I work with all the time, and you sit on stage with them, or you just hang out with them, you leave the gig lighter. You leave in a great mood. You leave. I mean, you know, and that same thing happens when I play a jazz gig. When I play, and one point that I wanted to make, this is an advice that my friend John Armour told me. You know, I think we all have to have all kinds of different outlets. I think that's key to keep your music soul happy, and to keep your sanity right here. I think, at least for me, I think if you just play orchestra, for example, I think it's very easy if you have to sit next to that person for the next 30 years of your life, and you just have that. It's very easy to get to the point where things are going to rub off in a different way, and you know. But if you put all your eggs in that one basket, there's a greater chance of disappointment, right? So I'm always, first of all, that keeps me. I have to keep practicing, and then the other thing is like it's so cool I get to play with so many different musicians and players that I'm always inspired. So there's never a moment when I feel like, well, I don't really want to play. I'm always like, well, this dude sounds so good. Like, for example, like one of the things that I'm excited, I told you guys about my you know, my thing with Marshall and I are really good friends, and I'm like, you know, so he's between us. I mean, he's writing a piece for trombone quartet and me and trombone solo piece, you know. So I'm like, well, I can't just take a break from playing just because it's the pandemic and I don't have gigs. Like when this guy writes a piece, I have to be able to play it and play it at a high level.
It's gonna be hard too. I bet.
Right, you know,
a little bit.
Exactly, you know, and I'm really excited. Like I decided to. I booked a lesson with Elliot Mason.
Oh, he's awesome, man. Oh.
I have a lesson with Elliot Mason. I mean, two of my favorite trombone players in the planet, jazz players, you know, are, you know, like we have many, but two of the top dudes that I think are, well, three is like Michael Dees is unbelievable. Marshall Gilks, you know, Elliot Mason. I mean, those guys are on fire, man.
Yeah.
you hear Elliot doing the things that he does. Like he took over the Lincoln Center like yesterday or something, or the day before. He was he was explaining some things about practicing fits.
Yeah.
I was just like,
He was like, "Oh yeah, just do this for a warm up." And it's like,
yeah.
what?
And also
Wait,
his
what?
bass trumpet stuff. That's incredible too.
So I have a lesson with this dude on Monday, man. I'm freaking. I gotta
Nice.
practice. I'm serious. I'm freaking out. I'm like, what am I gonna do? But those are the things that keep me motivated. Like for example, like my students are practicing, excerpts and stuff. Like I'm trying to get them to, have this kid. I mean, he's really talented, so I'm trying to get him to, he's practicing excerpts and all that. And then I saw that the other day, I didn't even realize. I'm so in my own little bubble here in my house that I didn't realize so many people were retiring from jobs. And I was like, wow, that's cool. I'm like, you know what? It's not that I have a pretty good life in Boston. It's just really cool. And I love my life here. And then probably, I don't know, I probably will never leave here because I love it so much. But I was like, you know what? It might be cool to, pull out my excerpt book and just start practicing just because. And I did.
Yeah.
And it was cool. It was like, wow, it's been a while since I played that. I mean, it sounds okay, but it can be cleaner. I mean, it's like, it's always this thing, where for me, there's always something to do. And there was always some way that you can do something to make it sound better. There's always someone who is better than you. I remember I used to say this to people just to bother them. Well, there will always be somebody who's better than you are, just to mess with them, right? Like to my friends. And that's always in the back of my head. No, because I don't keep it there to put myself down. I keep it there there's always work to do. We can always be better. And as cheesy as that might sound, music, I've been playing since I was 10, 11 years old. So I'm 41. That's 31 years of my life. So music is a humongous thing in my life. So of course it dictates the little discipline that I might have in my life comes from the music. So everything comes back to the music, and so I can be a better person. I can be a better teacher. I can be a better this. I can be a better this. Let's try and do better, right?
Yeah, and that's a great testament to just we're always learning, no matter what. The fact that you're getting a lesson this week it's like that's how we stay grateful and positive and enjoying. We're always trying to get better, and then you're such a testament to gratitude, and it's such a good lesson for everyone to hear. All right, Angel, it's time to move on to our rapid fire questions.
Oh God, I'm afraid of this.
Oh, you don't need to be afraid. I'm looking forward to your answers. We have a mutual friend, Juan Jaramillo, violinist. He was my roommate for years, and so I reached out to him to just get a little dirt on you. And he mentioned how that you're.
Right?
I know he's hot.
He's a beautiful man. Yeah,
he's a handsome man.
He's a beautiful man.
It was very annoying, and he's
also. I mean, he's a beautiful soul, but he's also a very good looking dude. I mean,
he's a good look Venezuelans, and it's like he's in his like mid 40s, and he's still like people think he's in his 20s because no one in Venezuela loses their hair.
All Venezuelans, we have that.
Yeah.
That's what I'm told. Anyways, so he mentioned that you're a fantastic cook and a fantastic at making cocktails. So Nick and I are coming over to your house tonight. What cocktail are you making? What are you cooking for dinner?
All right, man. My friend Hans Boone, who's a great trombone player, taught me this thing about the gimlets. They're awesome. I've been digging them. But check this out. It's simple syrup, lime juice, then grapefruit vodka and regular vodka. Those things are deadly, man. I'm telling you. I mean, they are like glorified.
As Jim Nova calls drinks like that, a leg eraser. Try to stand up and your legs are gone.
Oh God, no! Speaking of, I mean, go ahead with the questions because
what's for dinner?
Okay.
Jim.
Oh, what's for dinner? Yeah, we're hungry.
Oh, what's for dinner
for us
tonight?
when you're going to make us?
No, what are you going to cook for us?
Oh yeah, the dinner. Well, you guys are fancy dudes, so
I want some freaking cachapas, man.
Oh yeah. That's one thing that I have to get better at. I tried to I made them a few months ago, and so what I will make for you guys. Let's see. I will make some salmon. I have this nice recipe. It's salmon, asparagus, and I have this mango hearts of palm salad that I do. It's delicious, man. Fancy stuff, lighter, so we can drink more beer. So that's what I will make.
Very sensible.
Dinner.
Very
Vodka.
sensible.
Oh man.
Well, we start with the vodka drink and the stuff, and then the lighter food, and then we move on to the beer.
Mhm.
Well, I feel like I'm on a date now.
Oh yeah, come on, that's how we do
Yeah,
it, right?
you clap
Nick?
little Boys to Men in the boombox and set the mood.
Yeah. I'll go fancy on
Ooh.
you guys.
Okay.
Yeah,
Let's see. Yamaha Trombone or Slido mix.
Yamaha, because
That's the correct answer.
Yamaha because it's cheap. I do use trombone sometimes.
What's trombone's way cheaper because it lasts like 6 lifetimes.
Somebody posted something these days, and I was like, "What's wrong with you?" And then he wrote that it was the Edwards thing. He used to work.
Oh,
with
right,
Edwards.
Yeah, why are people like saving their trombone bottles?
I lose mine
I don't
before I use it
understand
up
that.
usually.
I know. I still do. No, I do use both of them depending. The thing is, one of the things that I have to put out there, maybe this will make it to a tape or not, but somebody has to come up with a slide oil that mixes well with alcohol. I have to say.
So it cleans as well?
No, so it's smoother. I feel like sometimes, depending on the type of alcohol that you drink, it dries up pretty quickly. I mean, I don't know, dudes. Check it out. I'm telling you.
You just want any reason to combine alcohol with it.
I mean,
Well, I mean, there's that. I took a break, man. I took like a almost maybe like a 2-month break. I'm back.
I'm back, folks.
I'm back, everyone.
Yeah, oh yes, I'm back in full force. But no, I took like was it like a month or two? It was like a 2-month break, man. Like recently.
How do you feel?
Everybody's like, "You must feel great." I'm like, "That was a stupid move. Why did I do that?" I was like, "Why did I do that?" I mean, it's like whatever, man.
Do you know Maciek Piotrowsko?
I know the name. I know it personally,
He was up in New York and we were hanging out and we were at a pub and he's like, my wife is making me not drink for a month. And I'm like, I'm almost done with it. I'm like 3.5 weeks in. So I'm just going to follow through. And I was like, well, you must feel better. And he's like, man, I feel exactly the same. This sucks. That's the only difference.
I was telling people, I was like, I don't sleep. I'm sleeping. My sleeping is worse than it's even been. I'm in a bad mood. It's just horrible. Why did I do that?
Exactly.
Podcast. Yeah, I'm a social drinker, so I've definitely found that I'm drinking way less during this thing.
Bless you, heart.
And then when I do drink, I drink like the same as I would normally do with people, but my body can't handle it because I haven't been drinking. So it's like I'll feel a hangover for like 2 days.
My first drink was I went to see my friend. He turned 50. This is like last week or so, and we went to these places. They serve these Mai Tais that are deadly. This is the first drink I have in like 2 months. Right, I had half of that drink. I was a mess.
It's like starting the car in third gear, man. It's like not a great idea.
Well, what was that? Yeah, so I had 2 of those, and then I had an IPA. I was a mess. My head was killing me. I was a total mess. I was texting my friends, and now speaking of social drinking, I connected with people, man. Like this pandemic is dangerous because you know that you can get 8 people on a WhatsApp call, and then they can be all over the place. Like I was drinking with Miguel. People in Miami, people in Venezuela, people like LA, California. All of a sudden, I mean, I was like, okay, it's too much. Anyway, go ahead with your questions.
Your most memorable concert experience?
Oh, dude. Wow. Hiking. Schubert night.
Ooh, that's nice.
Yeah. BSO. It was funny. In rehearsals, he told the strings and the woodwinds that they were ruining what we were doing. You know that little part, the soft?
Ooh.
Right.
It was so soft. We played it so soft. It was Darren Acosta, who is now in Finland, in the radio orchestra there. John Fayera, who moved to Cleveland. He used to be a big freelancer here in town. He moved to Cleveland because his wife got a big job with the Cleveland Orchestra. Phenomenal player. And myself. And it was hiking. And hiking anytime the hiking came in, it was a lot of stress because, they love hiking and hiking. They always wanted to play great for him, right? But it was the entire section was out. So they were freaking out. And then we had the 3 concerts. He gave us a standing ovation.
Oh, wow. That's nice.
He loved the trombones. And I remember the oboe player came over to me and said, like, are you guys using some kind of period instrument or something? I was like, from this period, I guess, So, but it's like, I never...
From the late 90s?
I never been told to play softer because of the trombones. I was like, oh, I'm sorry, man. What am I supposed to say? But that
it's like, now you know how it feels. Yeah.
That was cool. I mean, I had many. That was special. Playing with John Williams is always great too. It's like I never thought in my life that I will actually get to play. When I went to Aspen, I got a CD of the Boston Pops with John Williams, and he's playing all kinds of 1 o'clock jump and stuff like that, and Stars and Stripes and as annoying as the Stars and Stripes are, I still have the CD somewhere. I bought it this wasn't in Aspen. This was way before. I was in Venezuela, actually. My bad. And I had that CD. I always love playing Stars and Stripes with the Pops because it brings back me to that time that I bought that damn CD. It's like 1995 or 1997 or something. One of those trips to CBK because I was still home, 1995 or so. And I still have it somewhere here. And anytime they play one of those charts, man, Childers list is there, and Stars and Stripes, and 1 o'clock jump too, but especially Stars and Stripes. As annoying as that damn thing is, I love it.
Yeah. All right. Where's my next question? Oh, did it hurt when you fell from heaven?
Oh God, that's awful.
I haven't gotten to talk to a person named on hell. So, has no one ever used that on you before?
Oh no!
Your name is literally Angel.
No, you know what? The one that I've been sending, I found a meme that says, "If you need an angel for your tree."
Oh, that's nice.
That's horrible. That's really horrible.
All right, last question for me. Something you would tell your 18-year-old self.
Oh God, man, I think a lot about that. I don't regret a lot. But there are things that I didn't realize. This is funny, but it's not. I didn't realize. I guess I have some type of ADHD. There's there's a heavy case of ADHD. Like last year when my dad. So I was freaking out. I was dealing with all that personal stuff, right? And then my dad died, and I was dealing with a lot of panic attacks and anxiety things. And I a couple times on tour, I had to step off stage. I thought I was having a heart attack. Wow. Paramedics and everything. This is, it was pretty heavy. Something I wanted to talk about that, but it's like personal shit, But at the same time, I think it's important because everybody talks about the amazing things that we all do and all these amazing things, and then there's always some other shit that is happening. So I went to this psychologist, right, just to deal with this thing and see what I could, if I could take some stuff that could calm me down and just like when I had these rushes of anxiety and these panic attacks, right? So then we're talking, and he decided to start asking me questions from my childhood to childhood, and then he's like, then he did some kind of test and some kind of thing. I was like, why is this taking so long? And he comes back, and older guy say, has anybody told you that you have a severe case of the ADHD? And I was like, oh no.
Wait, the problem would have been like, wait, what did you say? I wasn't paying attention.
Right. No.
Yeah.
He just looked at me like I was out of my mind. And I was like, you okay? I was like, yes, this is great. I was like, why? I just told you have some weird thing that doesn't help you concentrate. I was like, yeah, I know. Now I understand why my brain is all over the place all the time. It was like a thing where I just realized. I was like, oh, so yes, I would tell myself, you have ADHD or whatever the hell that is, and you need to pay more attention to details. That's what I would tell myself. My 18-year, I did some stuff no bad. It was never horrible or bad, but I did some stupid shit that it could have been avoided if I was a little more careful. Also, like, I just jumped in the water because that's how I am. I like taking risk with, I mean, you can see, you know, you can see on my musical shit, but I am afraid of a lot, but I go for it. And I think that's when you jump into certain situations without knowing all the stuff, sometimes that can bring some consequences that can affect you for a long time. And I wish, you know, sometimes I wish I had somebody in my life that told me, hey, don't do this or don't do that. Be careful with this or be careful with that. Like I messed up a lot. I'm lucky that I've had some really great people in my life and some really cool opportunities to do what I do and somehow redeem myself, if you want to call it that way. But I made some mistakes. I mean, nothing ever horrible, but I've done some fuck ups that it will cost people a lot more than it cost me. So in that way, I'm pretty lucky in that way, you know. So that's why you gotta have good friends.
All right. we'll ask you more details.
Angel, it's the same sort of thing happened to me with ADHD, or the doctor. They gave me a test, and then, have you ever been diagnosed with ADHD? And like, they thought I had it when I was really young, but I didn't like the medicine that I was on. And so, but as an adult, it's like way different, you know.
Well, I can, you know, he gave me some medicine that I ended up not really. I took it and do feel any different. Then he upped the dose. I didn't feel any different. It didn't make me wake up with this energy to conquer the world. Yes, I wake up early in the morning, but I don't get out of bed till 11. I'm ready to conquer the world at 11:30. I'm ready to I'll give you everything I got at 2 in the afternoon. You know, and if you wait till 11 p.m., that's my time. But
oh man,
but no,
it's a salsa o'clock.
I'm not a morning person, man. I want to chill. I leave my mornings off. I want to practice and take my time making breakfast and playing my long tones. That first page of Remington is a beautiful thing when you're hungover.
That's going to be your quote for,
I'm gonna have to
for your picture.
I'm gonna have to disagree
That's
with you.
perfect.
No, yeah, you can agree with me. I mean, that wasn't completely accurate there. But man, thank you so much, guys. This is so cool. I really appreciate you guys including me on this thing. I love you both. I hope we can hang.
Yes.
I mean, you know,
someday we will.
Yeah, soon. I think, you know, but in the meantime, keep doing the great things, man. You guys are killing, and I'm always checking out the stuff that you guys are putting out. I love it. I truly do.
I just want to give Angel a big hug. He's just a big ball of warmth every time I talk to him.
He's a very huggable guy.
He is. Yeah, I like Angel a lot. I'm glad he came on here, shared his story. It was really nice. He's done it all and then some.
Yeah, he's a humble dude, but man, he can play the crapola, sorry for my French, out of the trombone. Just a real natural talent. But I mean, he's worked his butt off. But like we were saying in the podcast, incredible sound. He can play in any genre. He's just like the definition of like a super high-end jack of all trades trombonist.
Yeah. You know, I got to thinking in the middle of the podcast. It made me want to talk about one thing. Can we have story time with Uncle Nick?
Can't wait.
Oh my God. The sass from Sebastian.
That was serious.
Oh, okay. We're beefing these days, guys.
Nick is sensitive every single day.
And Sebastian has a heart of stone. He was talking about, you know, like growing up in Venezuela, and like they'd practice backstage at the hall, and it'd be like 10 of them. And then like, it was like weird for him to not have that like system in place in America where you like could bounce these ideas off your friends. Like it wasn't as communal, this process. And I just want to talk about that for a second. Everyone, when this is over, and even now you can do this, play for other people. Don't just hide in a practice room. Go listen to concerts. I mean, every single guest we have on here pretty much says the same thing about that, and we feel the same way. Listening is learning. It's one of the best tools. And I feel like, except for a small minority, the vast majority of students don't listen to enough music, don't really live in it enough. And I think that was something that he was kind of driving home, and I wanted to drive it home even further. I just think it's a really important point.
Well, you just parked it in the garage and it's there.
I did, like an old station wagon.
But yeah, I was thinking that same thing when he was talking about that. Think about just educationally how group learning is impactful if you're literally spending your whole process of getting better in a room by yourself. And we're not just talking to students, talking to everybody getting better. We're all trying to get better, right? You're cutting yourself off from that hive mind, right? So if you could build in some consistency, obviously doing things in groups right now is tough, but building in consistency of spending time doing, Nick, you're one of the first people that really was into group warm-ups or just like two people together warming up. Like I'd never really done that a ton before hanging out with you. And it's fun. You always hear a different perspective, get out of your head a little bit. That in conjunction with the practice by yourself can be a much more efficient way to get better, I think.
In my time in San Francisco, we lived in a house. It's 4 trombone players. It was affectionately known as Trombone House. Still is Trombone House.
Isn't your modem still that title?
Trombone House NYC is one in New York. So it's 4 trombone players, and we would play together all the time. I mean, we had individual practice, of course, but we had a quartet book set up in the basement at all times with trios on the stand too. If it was just 3 of us wanted to play, duos were available. But one thing we did a lot of, which was fun, we played a lot of Mario Kart on Nintendo Wii, and we would, if 2 of us, 3 of us, 4 of us would be playing, we'd have our trombone in there too. And every now and then we'd put down the controllers and play like 10, 15 minutes of kind of exercises, make them up and just call and response between us and try to match, or we play together scales and octaves or fifths or whatever, so things, we just make up things and play together. And I found that very fun, educational, and doing it informally like that, making that normal. I think if you make it part of your routine, it just helps everything out because you're constantly playing with and for other people.
Did you have a go-to Mario Kart character?
Who was I? Was Toadstool.
Huh. Like slow and steady wins the race.
No, just like a little sprightly guy, real tight on the corners.
I like that control.
Yeah.
If you enjoyed the podcast, don't laugh at me.
Sorry.
If you enjoyed the podcast, please consider leaving us a rating and review on iTunes, as it helps us out a lot. If you want to leave a question or topic for us to discuss, we'll talk about it on the podcast. Follow us at Trombone Retreat on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and on our YouTube channel. You can also email us at our website, tromboneretreat.com, as we love hearing from you. You can also follow Nick at basstrombone444 and myself at js.vera on Instagram.
And as always, retreat thyself.
For Christmas and holidays and Hanukkah and Kwanzaa. Is that all of them?
St. Stephen's Feast.
What is that?
I think that's today, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, well, let's hear it for St. Stephen.